Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Zanzal, coach, ordained minister, grandma, mama of four, and a queer woman married to my lovely, gorgeous wife after I came out later in life. This is Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA Plus Stories, a podcast for everyone exploring identity, queerness, and what it means to live more truthfully, no matter our age or stage. We share stories of coming out, starting over, resiliency, how to navigate relationships, grief, joy, and building lives that actually fit us as human beings. No labels required, just curiosity, courage, and a little faith in this journey. Welcome. Let's dive in. Hi, this is Anne-Marie Zanzal, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA Plus Stories. And I have a very special guest to my show today. So sometimes when I am working with people, they start out as thinking it's what's different about them, or what they're questioning is about their sexual orientation. And as time goes on, they realize that it may be more about gender for them. And so Nate is somebody who came out later in life and went on to make that discovery. So Nate came out as a trans man when he was 57. He is now at 68. He facilitates a trans mask peer support group. He is the father of 2 adult children and grandfather to 4 beautiful and intelligent granddaughters. He works virtually as an online marketer. Nate, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for inviting me.
I am super excited to hear your story today because I think you're my first guest on the show that has had 2 coming out stories. So take us back to your mid-30s and let's hear that one first.
Sure. So I had been thinking, that I was attracted to women. Mm-hmm. And so that was the part I was thinking about. Mm-hmm. And then when I was 30, I joined a church that was for the queer community specifically.
MCC, which is the Metropolitan Community Church, for those of you who have not heard of it. And it was created to support and love our LGBTQ people.
Yes, exactly. So then I just felt like I fit in there, and I guessed I was lesbian. Mm-hmm. It just seemed mm-hmm. like that. I've always been masculine, but there are a lot of masculine lesbians. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't think anything of it.
Right. There's a lot of lesbians that are, we call them butch, masculine of center, non-binary, or what's the word I'm looking for? Not non-binary, because that's about gender.
Transmasculine?
Transmasculine. What's the word I'm looking for androgynous.
Yeah.
Okay. They have a very androgynous look, and a lot of people find that very attractive. So you thought you were lesbian. So what was it like for you coming out? Like, were you married? I know you have 2 children, but were you married? Did you have to tell your ex-spouse? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Actually, I'd been single for quite a while, so that was easy. I told my children, they were ages like 6 and 9, or a little bit younger. We were in the car. Great place to tell your family something, because you're looking elsewhere.
And they're also trapped.
We're trapped. That's true, huh? So I said to them, I had something to tell them, and they said, "What?" I said, "I'm gay." They go, "Yay, that's great." A second later, they go, "Mom, what's gay?" Because I didn't know, So I told them, and they go, "Oh, cool." And then, what's for dinner? I mean, just nothing.
And that's one of those things. So First of all, I'm glad you didn't have to navigate getting divorced and coming out later in life, because that can be really challenging. So I'm glad you didn't have to do that. But what you're describing is very typical what I tell to my clients, that kids that are, I say 9 is the age. I say up to 9, 10 years old, they could care less. They do not have homophobia unless they've been raised in a homophobic environment. They do not have homophobia. They are just, they just love you and they want you to be happy. And I often talk to my clients about the conversation can be as simple as this, because when a parent divorces, a lot of times the kids will go, "Mommy, are you going to have a boyfriend again?" And it can be simply as this: "No, I think Mommy's going to date girls this time." That's it. It doesn't have to be this huge, dramatic coming out talk with your kids. So I think it's adorable that they were like, "Yay! What does that mean?" So you came out as lesbian, and then take us through that journey to where you started.
I did date women. Yeah, I did date women. I appeared as a woman at the time, although masculine. And I just started, it was interesting. I was with a group of lesbians, and we were playing this game to ask questions, and who is the most masculine person in the room? And they all said me, and I'm like, so surprised, really? So then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I guess I really am quite masculine. But I didn't put all that together yet. When I was a child, back up just a little bit. When I was a child, like about 5 or 6, I said to my mom, I'm a boy. And she's, of course, this was the 1960s, and she was very conservative. So she said, no way, that's not happening.
You're a girl, and
and there was no language. Yeah, no, there wasn't.
There was no language around this. None.
Exactly.
Right.
So as a result of that and some other, societal pressure, I had just repressed this so deeply about being trans that I didn't think about it that much. But then I started to think about it more. And a friend of mine who is a trans man, I saw him before, during, and after his transition. And I was just like, I'm jealous. Why am I jealous? Why am I jealous? Because that's what I want to do too. So I started going to a support group and heard a lot of stories. Go ahead.
For you, when the lesbian group described you as masculine, can you tell me, there's all to our listeners and to myself, there's all types of ways people think of as masculine. So how did they describe you? Like when, what was the impetus for them to say, "Oh, Nate's the most masculine person here"?
I'm not sure. They didn't say. I mean, I can guess that they had, there's a masculine essence, because I didn't really
energy to it, right?
Yeah, because I don't think I dressed any more masculine than some of them not, some of them dressed more feminine, whatever, but, according to society. But I think there was like an essence, this energy, as you mentioned, they picked.
So you saw a friend transition, and then you started to notice the feelings of jealousy inside of you. Can you talk a little bit between the space between realizing you were jealous and when you joined the support group? Because what was going through your head? Was there any worry about being trans? Because you were pretty far on your journey. I mean, it sounds like you were a decade or two into being a lesbian. What kind of thoughts were you worried about it? What were some of your fears about coming out as trans?
I had a few of them. One of them being I was going to look ugly. I just couldn't picture myself looking like a man, so I just couldn't imagine it. So that was one. And then, of course, how people would react, there's that. And then there's a bunch of men in my life growing up. Well, not a bunch, but a few that were just they were toxic. They just were not fun to be around for me. Right. I didn't think I would become that, but I did think that I would be lumped together with them. Oh, you're a man, so you're X, Y, and Z now. And I'm not. So I didn't want to be mislabeled. This toxic man.
Well, yeah, I can see that, because especially in the lesbian community, especially lesbians that are, 50 plus, a lot of them have a lot of suspicion and wariness around men.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Yes.
And there's all kinds of men out there, but there's for some good reason. And I can imagine if I had built an identity within the lesbian community, that I would be a little frightening about transitioning, wondering if this old community that I had would be able to accept me in this male identity.
Right. There's that too. There was a
Mm-hmm.
general world, and then there was the lesbian community I was a part of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I went to a gender therapist, which
Mm-hmm.
was just so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I started just remembering back to that childhood where I said I was male and thought about honoring that inner child.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, well, I was jealous, so it must be what I want. I feel masculine. My inner child thought I was a boy, so it kind of all adds up. So that's when I decided to start going to the group.
So how did you find a gender therapist? If somebody is like listening and saying, oh my God, Nate sounds like me, how do you find a gender therapist? And my follow-up question to that is why were they so helpful? The question, really bringing you back and having to think a lot about, when you were young, because that's what I do with a lot of my clients. Like we like a lot of times people have like recovered memory of like their, like not recovered in the sense you were traumatized, but memories you just forgot about. A lot of times my clients will remember, oh my gosh, I didn't admire that girl in high school. I had a huge crush on her. Or, one of my moments was when I realized that I always watched women move and walk. Like it was like when I was in my coming out process. And like, I just remember like all of it, like watching somebody walk. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have been doing this my entire life. But it was just part of my norm. I didn't even think of it or put two and two together, that I was looking at these women in a way I did not look at men. I just didn't. So how do you find a gender conform therapist? And how do you find somebody that is in the questions that they asked you that were helpful?
I found
Now is the time to sign up for Wing Women Weekend, October 15th to 18th in Provincetown, Massachusetts. This isn't just a conference, it's a lifeline for women and non-binary folks who are new to queer community. You'll be stepping into a place where the energy is electric. Here is where you'll be seen, celebrated, and safe in your new queer identity. And you can receive 10% off your registration when you use the coupon code PRIDE. That's PRIDE. Participants report that this experience is life-changing. For more information and to sign up, visit wingwomenweekend.com.
Mine through the Diversity Center locally, contacted them, and they had a list at the time of local therapists. And this was all in person, way before COVID. It was 11 years ago. And so I just picked the one that I tried I picked the one who was taking new clients, And that's who I went with. And yeah, she was great. What did she ask me? Well, she did ask me, kind of what you asked, like, what are my feelings about it? And that kind of thing. And then when did I know? Did I know earlier before or not? And so that led to me telling her the story of when I was 5 or 6. And then that led to, do you want to support? What do you want to support? Do you want to support the child, or do you, what is it you want to do, really? And I also told her about being jealous, and, she asked why. What was it about that person that you were jealous of, besides, the transition, but what specifically, right? So it gave me a lot of food for thought. I really only met with her 3 times.
Oh,
but we did a lot of work in those 3 days, 3 visits.
And you were like 55, 56 then, when you were doing this work?
Yeah, I was already 57.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Do you think that your age played into the factor of like being able to like make up your mind so quickly? And when I say make up your mind, and this is for the audience, I am saying Nate has always been transmasculine. His decision was about what he was going to do with it. That's all I'm saying right there. I'm not saying he's choosing to be transmasc. He is. And so when we come out, we make the decision what we're going to do with this information we find out about ourselves. So how did that work with you? Think it was having to be
partly
older?
my age, but it was also, it was experiences I had. When I met my first trans person when I was in my 30s, trans woman, and heard her story and how her life was and all that. That was part of it too. And just these encounters with people who are trans. finding out what their life is like, and seeing my friend being accepted by so many people. That was reassuring.
And it must have given you courage. Yeah, because, courage is being afraid and doing it anyway, So seeing someone successful at that made you realize, it sounds like would make me realize that, okay, if X can do this, then maybe I can do this as well. Yeah. So you joined the support group. Tell me about that. What was that like for you?
Wow. That was it was phenomenal to meet other people. Yeah, to meet other transmasculine people. At the time I joined, they're almost all trans men, and the group has evolved to where we have a lot of non-binary people, gender fluid, variety now, but we're all transmasculine. So joining the group, I mean, I was just listening to their stories in awe. And then this one guy walked in, and I thought, they let cisgender men in? He was a trans man, but I just didn't even recognize that. So I was like, wow, when I figured that out. He is a trans man, but I figured it out. People can actually pass as men.
I think in a way, sometimes it's easier to pass as a trans man than a trans woman, especially if you transition later in life. You agree?
Yes, I agree. I had a trans woman tell me that, so I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Yeah. When women don't have to go through puberty's the big factor there. And then, so like the people that our transition when they're younger, they're almost, they pass very well if that's their goal, but people who've been living as another gender and they've gone through puberty, I find that sometimes they struggle to make that transition, unless sometimes if they have a lot of money, a lot of people can do like facial feminization surgery and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So this is the psychological, social piece of transitioning to, as a trans man. Can you talk about the medical piece for people and talk to us like we've never, ever heard about this before?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Well, I wanted to appear more like my true self, which one thing about that was to wear masculine clothes, which I already had been doing. But then there was the physical appearance that, I was very curvy, very uncomfortable with that. But anyway, I started out with hormone replacement therapy. So I got prescribed testosterone liquid form to give myself injections with. So every week, giving myself an injection. And over time, it started to make some changes, which was really great. And I felt great, too. And so my voice lowered, my face changed shape a little bit. And more masculine.
And you started, growing hair for the first time?
Facial hair, yes.
Yeah, Nate has if you're listening to this on a podcast, Nate has a goatee and a mustache. So I was able to do all that. And what was it like for you the first time it appeared, like your masculine identity in the way we traditionally identify somebody as masculine? For example, like growing facial hair or your face changing from a more feminine face to a more masculine face. What was that like for you? You must have been on like cloud nine.
I was.
Yeah.
I also had top surgery, so that helped that curviness. That one helped a lot with that curviness that I was really super uncomfortable with.
Do you think Do you think now you had body dysmorphia?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can you tell people what that means?
Well, I would call it, it's body dysmorphia, or I would call it gender dysphoria.
Okay.
But yeah, it had a lot to do with my body. So it was depressing. It was depressing. I mean, just even when I started puberty, it was depressing. It felt so wrong.
Well, yeah, you're growing breasts and all that stuff like that. You must have been like, what the heck is this?
Exactly.
So how about your family? So your girls now are grown women. They're in their 30s when you came out as a trans man. How did that all go with your kids?
Well, I actually have a son and a daughter, and I called them. I thought, well, how do I come out to them? And they lived out of state, so I couldn't do it in person. Not really. They lived in different states. So I decided to call them on a three-way call. So we're all on the phone, so I could tell them all at once. And of course, I said earlier they knew I was lesbian. They didn't know anything about me being trans at all. They didn't have a clue. And I told them, and they got really upset.
Yeah,
they got really upset. They said they wouldn't talk to me anymore if I went ahead and transitioned. They didn't use that word. They didn't know what to say, but they said, if you go ahead with this, we're not going to be in your life anymore. They just felt that strongly. So I didn't get a chance to talk with my daughter for 7 months. And then I sent the grandchildren presents, and my daughter's really good about, you say thank you for presents. So I called and she let them get on the phone with me. And that started opening the door slowly to her being okay being around me, not quite so violently opposed. Yeah. I would say accepted, but she doesn't totally. I mean, if she totally accepted me, she would use he, him pronouns, including dad, and she hasn't done that. But but we're closer. We can talk on the phone about lots of topics. And as long as we don't bring up the trans thing, we're fine.
And your son?
He's got a bunch of diagnoses, mental diagnoses. So to adjust to something new is very difficult for him. So he's not adjusted.
Maybe I'm Not Straight is a do-it-your-own pace course that examines why it can be so hard to come out. In this course, we talk about divorce, deconstructing religious beliefs, internalized homophobia, and more. And for those of you who have unexpectedly found yourselves falling in love with a woman, and if that first lesbian relationship is now over, our course, When the Catalyst Relationship Ends, explores why first lesbian relationships are so impactful and why breakups in these relationships are so life-changing. You'll find our courses Maybe I'm Not Straight and When the Catalyst Relationship Ends in Authentically Us. Find Authentically Us at AnneMarieZanzal.com.
What has that been like for you, Nate, to have your kids not be accepting and almost threatening in the sense that, if you do this, we're not going to be in your life? What was your emotional response to that?
Wow, it was intense. And I thought about not transitioning. My kids are my world. Yeah. But that was the time when I had the gender therapist. And so I talked with her about it and decided that I have to do this for myself. There's no other way to live. I must transition. I must appear as my true self. So despite their objections, I did it anyway because I had to be there for myself first before I could be there for them.
I always say that, if you're familiar with the Bible at all, they asked Jesus what the greatest commandment is, and he said to love God, love your neighbor, and love yourself. And I always say that loving yourself is the hardest part of all of that, because loving yourself oftentimes puts our relationships at risk, and that happens to a lot of people, whether they're trans or they're gay or something else that family or people they love don't want them to do. So tell me about the support group. You said it was great. You heard stories again. What made it? That is a huge part of your journey, because now you facilitate this group that you joined, 10 years ago. First of all, why is it important for people to find mutual support? And second, what was it like from going from a member of the group to now being in charge? And how do you create safe space for everybody within your group? So first of all, member, facilitation, safe space. Those are my 3 questions. Yeah.
Yes. And the safe space was very important. From the beginning, it was safe for me to be there, and I could ask questions that would not be nobody would say that's silly, or, I could ask any question I wanted to. And I found getting information from them better than on the internet. Here were real people who had experienced it. So I didn't just hear their stories. I asked them questions. What was this like? What was that like?
What are some typical questions that people what is for me, I can tell you the top 10 questions I get, in the whole later. And what are some of the typical questions that people ask?
A lot of it's related to surgery. And what is the surgery like? What is it going to be like after the surgery? How did you feel about getting surgery? So there's a lot that relates to that. Then there's a lot about coming out. A lot of questions about coming out, how to come out, what way. I mean, there's so many ways you can come out. You can talk to somebody on the phone. You can talk to them directly. You could text them.
You can email
write them a letter.
So many ways people.
Yeah, so we would discuss all of that. What are the options and what would work, so they could figure out what worked best for them.
And so I know you said safety was very, very important to you, but what was it like from going from a group member to a facilitator?
It's different as a facilitator. Although the group is great, they will listen if I bring up something and they will support me.
Mm-hmm.
But I find like I can't, how do I describe this? I almost need a separate group for myself where I can just not be in charge. And I do have one. I just haven't, I got to go back to it. But I have that opportunity because then I could just let my hair down. I can just, no hair, but
As somebody who's a professional facilitator, I hear you. I need a group too. It's just nice to have people to talk to about things and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have to worry that they're not going to tell me their story if they hear mine, I don't want to exclude anybody in any way. And sometimes I think if I tell what's going on for me, sometimes that's helpful and sometimes it kind of interferes with their story.
Yes. Do you find that a lot of people that are coming out as trans, are they already members of the queer community when they start this coming out process, or are they still part of heterosexual world when they start this process, or is it a mix?
It varies.
Yeah.
Most of them, well, some come to the group questioning, or we'd say questioning, wondering, am I trans or not? Or am I transmasculine or not? And what does that look like? And then others, they've come out and they needed support and they finally found it.
So they're coming out, they're coming to the group because it's just a safe space for them and they can talk about things that are happening in their lives and they've already transitioned already or in the process.
Or began.
How can people find you, Nate? How can they find this diversity center? I think you're in California. So if you're somebody that is looking for support and looking for help, how would you advise folks to go about that?
Well, you can search on the internet for a diversity center near you. We have different labels, LGBTQ center. Search for that and see what's local to you. But a lot of times what's local to people those places do not have trans support groups. That's what we're hearing. We get people in our group from all over, even Chile, because they didn't have access to anything else.
So people can find if they are trans or there's somebody who is questioning whether they're trans or not, they can come to your group then, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how do they find that?
If they go to the diversitycenter.org.
So if they go to the diversitycenter.org, people that are questioning may be able to will find support at the Diversity Center, whether they live in Chile or Hong Kong or the United States, they still can find support.
Yes.
We're going through a really bad time right now in our country. What is your perspective? And what it is, as somebody who's been out for, 10, 12 years, what is your advice, especially for people who are in the beginning of this journey? Because it's scary. So I'm curious, your perspective and your advice to folks.
It's very scary. My perspective is, yes, it's scary. I thought about leaving the country. I haven't because I love it where I live. And I don't want the powers that be to force me out.
I understand.
So, yeah, there's that. What I find helpful is for people to stick together. Those of us who are upset about that, what's happening in the country, to stick together and support each other and realize we have power in numbers. We have a lot of power in numbers.
Do you have any advice for where people can go, especially if they want to be a little bit more politically active? I'm not sure if you're politically active or not. Where would somebody who is horrified about what is going on in our country right now be able to take that rage and channel it into some sort of work that can help folks?
Well, Indivisible is a national organization. It has chapters in most cities. May not be a chapter in that individual city, but maybe nearby. And they hold protests and marches. Like they protest twice a week. Yeah. And it's really organized and it's safer than just any old group out there because things can get out of hand. People get upset and then they start having behaviors that make it more upsetting. So they really encourage peaceful protest.
And if they're, if you have a good community organizer, they can organize the heck out of anything, right?
Yes.
So can I ask you, did you have a coming out song the first time you came out or the second time you came out, or did you have different songs for each time?
I have a song now. It's more like I have a song now. And I just love the lyrics. Oh, the music's nice too, but I love the lyrics. I am that I am. Thank God I am. Like I'm grateful. I'm grateful now that I'm trans, and that's what I vibe with now.
I just had another question for you. I have a dear friend, Olivia Hill. She is a trans woman, and she talks about the loss of her male privilege. Can you tell me about the gaining of male privilege? And I'm very curious. I would love to walk around for a couple of days as a man and see what the difference is. So can you talk a little bit? I'm at the actually end of the program, but I'm going to throw this in there. Tell me what it's like to gain male privilege.
That is strange, bewildering, and very uncomfortable.
Okay, talk more about that.
Because let's say I walk up to a counter in the store and I'm hearing woman walks, somebody who looks female walks up too. Inevitably, the clerk will talk to me first. I'm like, wait, even if she was a little bit arrived sooner than I did. I'm like, wait a minute, no, she's over there. Why are you ignoring her? And the part of me that was appearing like a woman for so long, 57 years, really objects to that. Besides, it's wrong. It's just wrong.
Right. How about some other ways?
Some other ways that I get, what the male privilege is like? Sometimes it's not so great. I mean,
talk about that. I want to hear that too.
Well, like women who don't know that I'm trans don't feel so safe around me. Like women together, especially lesbian women, I mean, they will hold hands. I mean, I'm talking about just friends, They'll hold hands. They will lay on each other. All of that kind of closeness. There's a closeness that's physical and emotional. And there's not that out there with men that I've seen. You don't go up to a man and start laying on him. I mean, not as another man, right? So that closeness is gone. And I can't do that with women either because that's not appropriate.
How about within the queer gay community? Do you ever try to circle inside of that community at all?
Yes, I appreciate that because I can more often give a man a hug.
Yes.
I really miss hugs. So if I can give a man a hug, of course I can hug. I get hugs from the women, but I want to get a hug from everybody.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. So
you're saying that one of the things that you miss is the physical touch that you used to get as a woman, that women don't do it anymore. And men are not much, unless it's a gay man or a man who's very physically affectionate, that just doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So is there a book or a movie that really has changed your perspective on life?
There's one with beautiful photographs in it of trans people, men and women. Is it just, anyway, the trans people in it it's just, the photography is excellent. It's called Transfigurations. And my gender therapist showed that book to me. And then I was given it later. But I love that book because it shows me what the possibilities are.
Yeah, absolutely. How's your life today, Nate? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
How would you describe it today?
I am so happy. Compared to before, I'm just like elated. It's not like I don't get moments where I hate my body. Of course, I still have can't do everything about the curves, but I love it, the part that has been able to change. Physically, the physical changes that I have, I just love those. And I'm just so happy, and I pass. I mean, I know some people are just listening, but just to let you know, I pass. When I'm out in public, people do not question whether I'm male or not. It's just male.
Is that important to people who are trans? Passing? Yeah.
I don't know about everybody, but quite a few of us, it is important. And to be, I think it's, to be recognized, to be seen as male, it's important for most of us.
So it's that people want to be seen because they want to get the approval of people, they get the approval of the greater world. It's more that people want to pass because then they're seen as their gender that they identify with. That's why.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, Nate, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And thank you so much for just shedding a light on a really important subject and, so important for our later in life community because, as I said in the beginning, sometimes people start with sexuality and then they realize that, oh, wait a minute, this may be about gender for me. And so thank you for giving a language. Thank you for giving resources. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
You've been listening to Coming Out and Beyond, LGBTQIA+ Stories with Anne-Marie Zanzal. New episodes of the Coming Out and Beyond podcast drop every other Friday. You can tune in at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and at annemariezanzal.com. Be sure to hit subscribe when tuning in so you never miss an episode. And for more resources, articles, videos, and a free downloadable guide for coming out later in life, visit annemariezanzal.com.